Wheelock, Chapter 13, reflexive pronouns and possessives and intensive pronouns. So pronouns are words that fill in for a noun. That's what pronoun means. So we know the personal pronouns already. So I is the first person personal pronoun. You, second person. He, she, or it, the third person, and so forth. So now we're going to learn how to refer back to the subject. That's what reflexive means. So the singular forms of the reflexive in the first person, second person, and third person. In the first and second person, they're just like the personal pronouns that you've already learned. So you notice they don't occur in the nominative because they're pronouns referring back to the subject. So the subject is already in the nominative. This pronoun is going to refer back to itself. So, for example, I wash my own feet. I wash myself. I do this thing for myself. It's referring back to me. That person is my friend. Or Cicero was, Pampilonius's friend. Cicero was his friend. Referring back to the subject. Okay. So me, mihi, may, tui, tibi, te in the second. And now here are the special forms that you haven't learned yet for the third person. Sui, sibi, say. In the plural, again, first and second, just as you would imagine, you've already learned these. Nostri, nobis, nos, nobis. Vestri, vobis, vos, vobis. And the plural for the third person are the same as the singular. Sui, sibi, say. So let's look at some examples to clarify the differences. So, Cicero eam laudavit. Cicero praised him. That is another person. As opposed to Cicero se laudavit, Cicero praised himself. Okay? So it's reflexive. It reflects back on the subject. It refers back to the subject of the sentence. The third person reflexive possessive adjective, suis, sua, suum. It's declined like a normal first or second declension adjective, us, he, o, etc. I, ah in the feminine, e, o in the neuter, and so forth. Another example, Cicero amicum eius laudavit. Cicero praised his friend. That is, the friend of him, the friend of another person. If you want to say Cicero praised his own friend, that's Cicero amicum suum laudavit. So this is pretty handy, this in the third person. We don't really have this in English. So when we say in English, Cicero praised his friend, does that mean Cicero's own friend? Or does that mean Cicero praised Caesar's friend? In Latin, it's very clear. Cicero amicum eius laudavit means Cicero praised Caesar's friend, or Pompeius's friend, or somebody else's friend. But Cicero amicum suum laudavit, that's Cicero praised his own friend. Okay. And then we have an intensive pronoun, ipsa masculine, ipsa feminine, ipsum neuter. And so now this is on page 107. It has a genitive and dative singular like illa. So it's ipsius in the genitive, ipsi in the dative. Otherwise, it's just like magnus, magnum, magnum, normal, first and second declension endings. And it's intensive. So Cicero himself praised me. Cicero ipsa me laudavit. Or Cicero me ipsum laudavit. Cicero praised me myself. So it simply intensifies the reference. So in English, we use himself both as the reflexive and as the intensive. But Latin has a separate form for the intensive, and that's ipsa. So you may have heard in English we have this stave, ipsa dixit. Maybe you haven't heard that. It's not as common as other Latin phrases like etc. But the ipsis dixit means He himself said it, and it's, you know, quoting an authority is what it means. So if you're talking about baseball and you're talking about, you know, what Abner Doubleday, the inventor of baseball, had to say about throwing balls and strikes, you could say, well, the ipsa dixit is whatever the man himself says, whatever the case may be. Okay, so, you know, lots of forms. Yeah, sort of. I mean, the only really new forms are the sui, sibi, say, and the forms of ipsa. But really just some new usages. So I really look over the examples on pages 106 and 107. Spend some time with those as you make what flashcards you need. And then also make your flashcards, of course, for the vocabulary, which is kind of a medium range vocabulary, not a lot and not a little, kind of a normal dose of vocabulary from Wheelock in this lesson. And then I'd like you to work on, after you're comfortable with the vocabulary and the forms, work on these two sentences, numbers 1 and 6, and then hop on to the next video to get those answers for the translations.